Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this, a brand new playthrough of a brand new game for the channel, Suzerain. Now, we've been told it's pretty much a story-based game where consequences do matter, or should I say choices and consequences do matter. And yeah, it's got really good reviews as well, so we're going to jump in and start a new game and see what it's all about. Enter game name, Dragonia. I don't know. Okay, we've saved Dragonia. The Republic of Swordland, main story. Presidential Republic, 37 million. Our economy's in recession. We are a major power, and the start date is 1954. Anton Rain has been elected the fourth president of Swordland amidst a deep recession, demands for reform, and external pressures. You must complete the Republic of Swordland story once to disable torpor mode. Okay, let's start story. I have no idea what torpor mode is. Now, I've not played this game before, I've not even tried a demo, but it was on offer recently, and it's been recommended to me. And like I said, the reviews were good, so hey, I bought it, I thought, we'll try it out, and let's see what's going on. You are my enslavement and my freedom. You are my flesh burning like a raw summer night. You are my country. 1809, Kingdom of Swordland. You opened your eyes to this world. You came from... Ooh. We get to do our backstory. A wealthy family in the city of Lachaven. A middle-income family in the city of Holsword, an impoverished family in the city of Dare. We're going to come from a wealthy family. Your parents named you Anton as the only child of a successful businessman. You had the chance to grow up in a wealthy family. Life was not easy at first, and you had the best Life was easy at first, and you had the best education money could afford. However, things inside the Rain family changed due to the absence of your father. This affected your mother and you negatively. The years passed. 15 years later, during a history class at school, the bell started to ring unexpectedly. You heard a loud commotion outside. As everyone tried to figure out what was going on, the principal announced the historic revolution. The kingdom was no more. The Republic of Swordland was born. You were happy you had the day off. After graduating, you passed the university exam with high marks. You had the opportunity to choose between several studies. You chose law, economics, or history. I'm going to go for economics, considering the fact that I'm taking over something that's an economic recession. During the first year, you attended a lecture with David Weesey, your teacher and mentor from university. He is the son of the first president of Swordland, the revolutionary Arthur S. Weesey. He was a well-known diplomat from the foreign ministry and the son of the president. After observing the hall in silence, he explained why a market economy is the better option for Swordland. He argued for a system where prices for goods and services are determined by the open market. You questioned what you were being taught. The soldiers entered the campus in the evening ahead of the first election. Many were in shock as the uniformed men created a security cordon and started arresting the teachers. A group of students started gathering in protest, along with your best friend, Petra Vectern. You decided I'm going to protest with my best friend. One of the officers made a loud announcement that echoed through the campus. General Luderin declared martial law in order to restore the administration. Please stand back and disperse to your rooms. You joined the students that slowly marched towards the large group of soldiers. Suddenly, the soldiers charged. A student fell and was trampled as everybody started running away. I'm going to hold my ground. The soldiers beat you relentlessly. It was a gloomy year. The majority of the students and teachers displayed their opposition. Thus, Lachaven became a target for the military regime. You didn't want to stay idle and decided to join. I'm going to go political debate group. The dozens of debates helped you hone your oratory skills whilst also helping you grow your network. Even though the discussions between different groups often became heated, you all grew from sharing ideas. In one of the meetings, Petra Vector, my best friend, introduced you to a classmate of his, Monica. You were immediately attracted to her intelligence, her beauty, her diligence, her intelligence. She mentioned to you that she was a volunteer for the Swordish League of Women, an organization campaigning for women's rights. You told her you will heartily support her cause. Weren't particularly interested in women's rights, but asked her to dinner nonetheless. Wholeheartedly supported her cause. The politically charged environment led you to join the Red Youth, the Socialists, join the Young Swords, the Nationalists, stay away from any political organization. The radio relayed that the communist general Rijkaard surrounded Luderin and his troops, demanding their surrender. They refused and heavy fighting broke out across the country. You just couldn't believe it. The army was fighting among themselves. Sordland plunged into chaos. The clashes escalated into full-blown civil war. The horrors made you isolate yourself for a while. Monica helped you cope, and love grew between the two of you. However, it was a difficult time for love. The chaos had ended. The charismatic colonel, Tarquin Sol, and famous colonel who re-established the Republic, orchestrated a sudden attack on the capital where the Luderinist and Rijkaardist forces were battling each other. He defeated both, ending the war. A new constitution was written, and the military government began efforts to restore stability. Many people saw the colonel as a savior. He formed the United Sordland Party and ran as a presidential candidate in the first ever single-party elections. I'm going to vote for him. USP won the election by a large majority. The military government announced a 4-year restoration period to transform to an entirely civilian government. After graduation, you kept seeing Monica. You were both interested in marrying and starting a family. However, a letter arrived from the military, calling you to fulfill your compulsory service. It was time to serve your national duty. The devastating civil war from neighboring Wellen quickly turned into a proxy war between regional and world powers. The Republic of Wellen is a young and fragile republic located in southeast Maricopa. The distinguished Major Iosef Lancia, famous commander officer from the Swedish armed forces who you served under, ordered you to lead your squad on a border patrol mission. It was a very cold winter night when you began marching out of the Gumran outpost. After several hours of marching through the snowy hills, distant noises were heard. Visibility was too low to confirm the source, so the squad crawled forward in formation and found a spot to observe. A group of refugees had made it beyond the border fence. You let them slip through. After the patrol, Major Lancia arrived with anger and immediately relieved you of your command, calling you a disappointment. One of your squad members had reported your actions. After several months of scrubbing the floors as a punishment, your duties ended and you went back to civilian life. You and Monica decided to share your lives together. After receiving the blessing of her parents, a ceremony was held in Holsword, capital. During the same year, you worked hard to secure a high-paying job within the governing United Sordland Party. It was much more difficult to start your career on a good foot because of the refugee incident, but you still managed. Working for the ruling party was the easiest path to power. The financial compensation was too great to pass up. It was the best opportunity to change the country for the better. Number 3. You became the economics assistant to one of the more experienced members of the assembly. You worked long and hard, investigating hundreds of pages of economic reports late into the night. You were climbing the ladder. Tarquin Sol gave amnesty to the remaining factions of the civil war and chose de-escalation and appeasement. The institutions and symbols of the former kingdom were slowly replaced. His government launched several new initiatives, such as a citizen-funded bills program to revitalize the economy, a social labor initiative to help rebuild and improve society, and a large dam project to solve the energy crisis. The first multi-party elections in the history of Sordland were held. President Tarquin Sol was elected once more. The new 5-year plan and the subsequent financial work put you under a lot of pressure. But your significant contribution to the economic strategy triggered an invitation to meet President Tarquin Sol himself, who offered you a key position. You were to become the youngest member of Assembly. I accepted with doubts. As the youngest MP, it was difficult to connect with the influential inner circle. You needed allies, so you brought on Peter Vecton as your right-hand man, best friend. The birth of your son, Frank, provided you a brief moment of joy and relief. You sacrificed work to spend time with your family, sacrificed family time to improve your position in the party, sacrificed work. During your absence, Peter Vecton found trustworthy contacts and strengthened your position in the party. At the same time, President Sol increased his authority over the years. His growing ego started to cause strife within the USP. The cracks began to show. President Sol barely secured a majority in the election against the opposition leader. Over the next year, the Swordfish people grew increasingly discontent with the corruption and worsening quality of life. Economic growth was slowing down. Meanwhile, calls for a united Swordland Party Congress became louder as a leadership struggle started to brew. You joined the internal opposition. You gave your support to Edwald Alfonso, a reformist and talented business magnate, who was the main contender for party leadership. Meanwhile, in a desperate effort to secure votes before the Congress, President Sol was meeting party members one-on-one, but he didn't approach you. The Congress was nothing short of impressive. The banners of the United Swordland Party were decorating every possible spot. Thousands of influential political figures, lobbyists, and benefactors gathered for this turning point. The voting for the party leadership began. I'm going to vote for Edwald Alfonso. The efforts bore fruit as the contentious leadership vote was won by Edwald Alfonso. During the Congress, Tarquin Sol announced he would retire from politics at the end of his term and appointed Alfonso as vice president. You knew the structure he had established was to stay. The country had become increasingly authoritarian. You were troubled by the departure of Sol. No, I was happy that Sol was finally leaving. A month later, your daughter was born. Monica named her Diana. She motivated you during a tumultuous period in the party. As the VP and leader of the USP, Edwald Alfonso began dismantling the old organizations and structures established by the USP, such as the State Educators Corps and the Swordish State Corporation Bills. The general elections were approaching. The United Swordland Party was under new leadership. You joined the party effort and campaigned for him. During the general elections, the main opposition leader was embroiled in a sex scandal with his secretary. He was replaced by the more popular figure, Franz Richter, but the damage had been done. The new economic policies and the extensive privatization program proposed by Edwald Alfonso secured an election victory for the United Swordland Party. Over the following years, you did your best in order to make Swordland a better place. In government and law... Wait, no, I feel like that's not right. The president of Alfonso saw many bold reforms in government and law and advancements in liberal democratic values. He valued your support throughout. However, due to infighting and disorganization, continental economic tensions and fast-track privatization, it was followed by a severe economic recession. The other parties announced their bids for the 1953 election, but the unfair election system hampered opposition efforts to campaign. You were worried about the economic recession. With Peter's help, your presence in the USP grew. The two of you worked long nights together. He flipped opponents to your side. You became the new face of a new wing of the party. Step by step and with adequate planning, your wing took over the leadership as President Alfonso lost control of the country. The moment to make a move had come. You advised Alfonso to step down. He listened to your advice. Alfonso conceded the leadership struggle, and the party eventually voted you in because of your indisputable influence. Following this, you announced that you would be running for president in the general election with Peter as your running mate. It was your turn. After visiting every city and town during the campaign, you made a speech on state television. You promised to enact democratic reforms. The people are tired of empty promises. We need fundamental change in our institution and government. A solid and transparent democracy awaits us. Brothers and sisters, a new constitution and a new age is upon us. The broadcast ended. On election day, millions went to cast their votes. It was time to face the truth. Have I passed stage 1 and even managed to get into being the president? That was a hell of a prologue. Okay. Now we get to choose the distinct look of President Anton Rain. The confirmed style will remain throughout the story, and you won't be able to change it later. We don't want a hat. Let's go for that one. Facial hair. definitely going to go for that. Attire. I like the first one best. Background. Office. Accessories. Oh, glasses. A lesbian cigar. A Vaxlandian pipe. We'll go for none. Okay. There you have Anton Rain, 4th President of Swordland. Finish. Yes. As Anton Rain, you have made consequential promises to the people of Swordland to gain their votes in the 1953 election campaign. Consider these commitments carefully. After the recent market reforms and the recession, the country finds itself stuck between two different economic systems, with indecision and turbulence causing the population to demand a direction. Promote market economy. The global rivalries between capitalist Arcasia in the west, the monarchy of Rumburg to the north, and the communist United Contana in the east are intensifying. Swordland has the potential to align with others or lean towards neutrality. Remain neutral. In the last 5 years, Bludish, Wessex, and Agnolian immigrants flocked to Swordland due to relaxed immigration laws enacted by former President Ewald Alfonso. As a result, these tensions are causing requests for a political solution. I'm going to... Oh... I'm going to retain relaxed immigration. Once praised public education system of the nation has suffered significant setbacks in the last decade. The lack of new schools, high student-to-teacher ratios, low teacher salaries, and even a lack of classroom equipment in certain parts of the country cause massive divergences in the public education system. Swedish Armed Forces were the nation's most funded branch until Alfonso government reduced the defense budget significantly. With the increase of saber-rattling threats looming in the north by Rumburg and a growing presence of the superpowers in the region, the critical deterrence of the SAF matters more than ever. The recently culminating political tension between the different youth groups and socio-economic pressures between multiple classes of society is increasing the issues of law and enforcement systems. Police need help keeping up with increased crime rates. Simultaneously, judges in courts deal with an enormous growing backlog of legal cases. Swordland's health system and healthcare qualities have stagnated due to administrative inefficiencies. Increased service demand and an increasing divide in service quality between urban and rural hospitals, the average life expectancy has dropped significantly, with issues such as maternity, deaths, and disease outbreaks. I'm going to go for education. Are you sure about your decisions? Not in the slightest. 2 weeks have passed since we won the election, and now I was about to be sworn in as the 4th President of Swordland. Thousands were watching the inauguration ceremony and cheering my name, Anton Rain. The die was cast. In the distance, the Maroon Palace stood on top of the famous Hill of Pride. I have no way... Maroon Palace is where the executive branch of Swedish government is situated. It was constructed to serve as the summer residence of the Albrecht Rennen, but quickly became a structure of political importance. And the Hill of Pride was named during the declaration of the Kingdom of Swordland, when thousands of countrymen started proudly singing the new anthem of Swordland. It is located at the center of Hulsord, in between the most important government structures, like the Maroon Palace and Supreme Court. I had no way of knowing what future awaited me. I looked at my family, my son and daughter, Frank and Denia. There's Frank, there's Denia. And my wife, Monica. Her eyes were gleaming with pride. Then I turned towards the key people who had made it all possible. Of course, each individual was promised an important position in my government. I saw my previous rival and former president, Ewald Alfonso, who gave me a slight nod. Tarquin Sol was also invited, but as expected, he didn't leave his island retreat. As my thoughts slowly faded away, the reality of the situation dawned on me. Also, Hawker, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was waiting for me. I'm going to assume that's this fine gentleman I see on the left. The time for the oath has come. I am ready. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear. I do solemnly swear. That I will respectfully execute the office of the President of Swordland, and to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend. And to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the people and the Constitution of the Republic of Swordland. You may now deliver your inauguration speech, Mr. President. It is an honor. Dear citizens of Swordland. Crowd look very eager to listen to me. The current dire situation. We are enduring economic hardship like never before, and today our nation is falling apart. Our people, we, suffer in this dire situation. Our capabilities. Our workers are no less productive than a decade ago. Our capable minds are no less inventive. Our products and services no less requested than they were last week, last month, or last year. I promise you we will stop the recession and eliminate poverty. Our capacity as a nation has never been greater. Our capacity as a nation has never been greater. Hundreds of thousands cheered. They were shouting my name in unison. I felt the responsibility, the power, and the burden all at the same time. Wave. I waved at the crowd, which made the people cheer louder. I took a long look at the people of Swordland to burn this moment into my memory. One of the presidential guards came by to notify me that it was time to leave. I made my way to the leading car in the motorcade. The presidential state car was a jet black Cadillac with flags of Swordland above the front headlights. Next to it, a man was holding the door. Hello, Mr. President. Serge Walkner, driver and bodyguard. I still felt euphoric from the aftermath of my speech. Hearing my new title made me smile even more. If you'll allow me to introduce myself, I am Serge, your new driver. Nice to meet you. It's an honor. He respectfully bowed his head before opening the car door and gesturing inside. I entered the car. We will be heading towards the palace. The motorcade began to move. On the way, Serge proceeded to explain his duties as a driver. As minutes passed by, I found myself lost in thought again, barely paying attention to what he was saying. He suddenly gestured out of the window. Isn't it beautiful, the maroon palace? He was right. Sunlight glinted off the palace's many maroon-colored domes. It was so bright that I had to look away. Every time I look at it, I am reminded of my duty to this nation. Forget the men who led the country from here. So do I, Serge. So do I. Well said, Mr. President. The car drove past the majestic gates, continued uphill to the entrance, and stopped in front of the doors. Serge got out of the car and opened the door for me. Have a great day, Mr. President. A Morgna West Corps. He referred to the famous Swedish phrase from the times of revolution. A Morgna West Corps, Vectern sis da, which meant morning will come, victory is close. Vectern sis da. I made my way upstairs through the extravagant corridors of the palace. Marble and engraved wooden finishes decorated the interior. My footsteps echoed in the colossal halls. The guards bowed their heads in respect as I opened the massive doors to my new office. Okay, what do we have going on? I'm going to click this giant exclamation mark. Open city information. Status, it is my capital. It is an industrial center. It is USP mayor. The local municipality is governed by a mayor from the United Swordland Party. Logistical issues. The mayor has reported to be struggling to overcome the significant logistical problems of the city. Okay, now that's my codex. Religion, as you can see, is mostly Dast Nurity. And we are mostly Swordish. Okay. Government budget, 3. Personal wealth, 3. Growth, down. Regional map. These are all lovely, lovely things. National map. Okay, and this is a national map. Read the report. The latest marine traffic reports show that the port of Lakavan is no longer the busiest of the Makopa continent, falling behind to third position. While this is a negative indicator for our administration, Lakavan still has the potential to shine again as a major trading center. The port of Lakavan is the largest port of Swordland and holds enormous importance for the economy, particularly as the main distribution center linking the capital and the inner parts of Swordland to the rest of the world. This major port city will hopefully keep supporting a possible economic upturn in the entire country if investment projects succeed. What else have we got in the region? We have Dea, which is the regional capital. Homelessness. Bergia Special Zone. This city is part of the Bergia Special Zone and is governed by the governor of Bergia from the headquarters of the Special Zone in Dea. And it is a holy site. Okay. Let's come here. Whole sword. Economic situation. Read the report. In a recent update from Whole Sword, the mayor expressed growing concerns about escalating traffic congestion linked to the city's burgeoning population and rapid urban expansion. A logistics report pinpointed the significant increase in traffic volume and subsequent slowing of transportation routes as the capital's most pressing issue. The mayor stressed that the lack of a comprehensive design, large-scale land-based logistic hub serving as a convergent point for all transporters is exacerbating the issues faced by domestic transporters. Given Whole Sword's status as a sprawling metropolis, the current situation where transporters have established separate centers across 10 different districts is scattered and inefficient. The General Staff conveyed right after the election to congratulate our victory. All branches of the Swordish Armed Forces were represented in a meeting that took place at Camp Strongham, with massive security measures. The Chief of the Armed Forces, Valken Kruger, made a public press statement highlighting the increasing chances of military confrontation in eastern Mokopa and requested support to strengthen the military. The report calls attention to the alarmingly low levels of productivity growth in the region of Angland, where there are also high rates of food insecurity, malnutrition, and rural poverty in inner parts of the region. Oh, this is up here. The Mayor of Avery, Eric Neal, reports a lack of adequate infrastructure around Avery, which seriously undermines the attractiveness of Avery's investment climate. Foreign investors, particularly from Agnolia, are becoming hesitant to invest in the city. Meanwhile, according to data published by the National Business Council, around 90% of a company's total expenditures in Agland is absorbed by logistic costs, while in peer regions this figure is below 10%. Prime Minister Alvarez congratulated you for the results and spoke about his hopes to have a beneficial partnership deal in the future. He sent his best wishes to the Swordan people and warned us about the threats of the encroaching Malenyavist influence of United Cortana from the east, emphasizing the importance of unity in our continent, Mokopa. Okay, we have, yes, we have jumped out. We have reports coming from everywhere. This is our capital. We have reports. The Guild of Royal Allies. Oh, I can press left and right and jump between things. Anyway, let's go to Whole Sword. Briefing on the current political situation. Arrived a couple of minutes early and sat across from me. He was struggling to hold back his smile. We did it, Anton. We won, finally, and all those years with our noses to the grindstone paid off. Peter's eyes sparkled. The strain of the past months had put a damper on his usual rakish charm. But today he was looking and acting more like his old self. He loosened his tie and undid the top 2 buttons of his shirt. Enjoying the new secretary I picked out for you. Thought you'd appreciate her gorgeous set of talents. It's a shame the rest of your staff aren't as easy on the eyes. He gestured to the slight paunch that protruded over his waistband. But hey, back in university, did you ever imagine we would be sitting here in the Maroon Palace? We have to celebrate this great victory. We will celebrate at the inaugural ball. Just hang in there until the evening. Looking forward to it. Evelyn hopes to congratulate you in person there. I'm sure the kids would love to see their uncle as well. That is great to hear. It's crazy how fast the two have grown up. You are a good father. Peter had a wistful look in his eyes. He and Evelyn had never been able to have kids of their own. During our campaign, the opposition had floated the rumor that he'd fathered illegitimate children during his wilder years, but it had never been substantiated. The door swung open and Lucien Gallard, my chief strategist, walked in. He was a compact man with sharp, bird-like features. After briefly surveying the room from wall to wall, he sat down, poured a glass of water, and opened his briefcase in a series of quick, graceful movements. Gentlemen. The tall case clock in the room struck 3 o'clock. Damn, you are exactly on time. Hello, Peter. Lucian then turned towards me. He very slightly bowed his head. Lucian, how are you? I am ready and able, sir. Lucian spoke in soft, clipped tones that immediately drew your attention towards what he had to say. Peter and I waited for him to proceed. Let's start by evaluating our current situation. The majority of Swordish people demand change. They are more concerned about the economy than the constitution, but they blame the system for their problems. People are losing their trust in our democracy. Why do you think radicals like Bernard Circus is a Swordish poet, novelist, short story writer, and communist politician are becoming more popular? Everyone's expecting us to bring the change the last government did not. Franz Richter, leader of the Reformists, this guy, he rings a bell, believes that true change can only be accomplished by transferring some of our powers to the Assembly. I will move into the details of their demands shortly. We need to listen to the people if we want to serve this country. That's exactly what we campaigned for, a true change that will move the country forward. We will need many allies against the old guard in the government. In the political lexicon of Swordland, the old guard is a term used to denote a purported group of influential individuals within the government. The nature and influence of this group, however, are subjects of considerable debate and speculation. Mr. Richter managed to persuade many members of Assembly to give their support for drafting a new constitution. Reformist politicians are quickly increasing in number. While the reformist wing inside our party is still a minority, they could have a tripartisan majority in the Assembly, especially if they unite under Franz Richter. USB reformists aren't wrong to agree that we need change, but we should be in charge. Mr. Richter could be a potential ally in our goal to maintain a majority in the Assembly. Our party must fall in line with our position. We can't have a strong divide. Mr. Richter could be a potential ally. He's definitely key in this. The reformists' demands are clear. They want to limit the presidential's veto powers, ensure that the Supreme Court is independent, and take away the court's right to vote on constitutional amendments. We must listen to the demands, otherwise we are no different than the previous administration. I agree, we can't ignore the winds of change, after all. The old guard will do its best to preserve the Constitution. Chief Justice Hawker and his allied judges, that's the guy who swore me in, have a great influence over the Supreme Court, which will be tough to break. The court also has the final say over constitutional legislation. Without their approval, we cannot even change it. We need a comprehensive bill to balance the power structure more fairly. I agree, the old guard won't like this though. A comprehensive reform that would make the reformists happy would mean maintaining a balance between all branches of government, which means removing your absolute veto as well. The reformists demand that all loopholes in the Constitution are closed. We can't underestimate this situation. We can figure it out. Our party still holds 130 out of 250 seats in the Assembly. We've got the power. Just. However, a reform to the Constitution, we must receive a 2/3 majority in the Grand National Assembly, usually referred to simply as the Assembly. There you go. Which is 166 votes, and a simple majority in the Supreme Court that equates to 6 votes. I don't know who votes in this one, but I'm guessing 10, maybe. After we have settled on how to proceed, we will need to talk with our party figures. Our first goal must be to get 150 signatures needed to start the process. Following the green light from the USB, we will reach out to the other party leaders to see if they would back our draft. The last step is to convince the justices of the court. The entire process will take a long time, but we must start working with a reform committee to evaluate all possibilities for a new constitution as soon as possible. We will write a more democratic constitution. What I promised. That's what we've been preparing for internally. Don't forget that promise is what got us elected. The key thing here will be strengthening the power of the Assembly, which we already lead with a majority. Peter nodded in agreement. Yes, the division of power needs to be rebalanced for a better Swordland. According to the initial draft we made with the Reformists, there are 2 changes to the Constitution that are not open for their discussion. Lucian opened his dossier. First, the Supreme Court will no longer vote on constitutional amendments. Second, the President's absolute veto will be taken away. This can be replaced with a limited veto system by fixing the current loopholes. Let's work with the Reformists. Yes, sir. Lucian nodded. We will form a reform committee together with all parties and start reaching out to all the stakeholders in the Assembly and the Court for a new constitution. By later in the year, we should have an idea of the reform contents and what the other parties want. Lucian took notes. Another important point. We must be aware of the Lothenburg Group. The oligarchs convene under this organization to influence economic policies. Conrath led it for a long time before falling ill. The new leader is Mr. Walter Tusk, a private non-government organization which assesses the economic conditions of Swordland and the globe. Currently, the spokesman of the organization is Walter Tusk, who was elected by majority vote. Officially, Lothenburg has a vague structure and limited leadership roles, but the spokesman is considered to be the de facto leader of the entity. Walter Tusk is a millionaire businessman, investor, and current spokesperson of the Lothenburg Group. Okay. According to reports, some members of the National Business Council are in their pockets. Tusk and the group will surely try to bribe us in exchange for special economic protections. I won't be bought, it won't happen. Alfonso said the same thing. I doubt there was anybody else to turn to in his case. Lucian looked at Peter. As far as I know, Marcel Coronti has some strong ties to this group. His influence could definitely be an asset for us, but I'm sure he'll want something in return. He's a sordid businessman, philanthropist, entrepreneur who is the son of media proprietor Conrath Coronti. He operates the Hoss Advertising and largest advertising company in Swordland. Group is dependent on our economy policies. They can't move a finger without us. I'm aware of Mr. Conti's wide network. That could come in handy. We just need to be careful with him. He looks like the lesser evil, but it could be very quickly turn out to be the other way round. We need to tread carefully on all sides with all power players to survive our term. I need to underline the seriousness of the situation. The military and general staff are a powerful element in the state, and as history tells us, a dangerous one too. We do have some room to make structural changes, by reducing their budget, for example, but it is quite limited. On the horizon, we can't reduce our defense capability and anger our general staff. I want to receive the advice of the military before making up my mind. It is sound to listen to them, but they have very biased and narrow opinions. Nationalism clouds their minds. General Kruger is a spectre of the past. Defense Minister Iosef Lancia is more loyal to us compared to General Kruger, a fact that obviously can change with our actions. Either way, I see a potential rift between the two since they are clearly of different minds. If we act strongly against the military, both of those guys will unite against us. I agree with Lucian, we need to tread carefully here. Well then, gentlemen, precisely 30 minutes. This concludes our political briefing for today. Our next meeting will be about our media strategy. Talk to you soon, sir. I will keep in touch. See you both at the next meeting. Lucian and Peter bid their farewells and left. A mysterious amount of smoke was rising far away on the horizon. I don't like that. Read the report. The Nature Preservation Foundation in Lyron has organized a march promoting ecological practices and nature preservation. The event witnessed significant participation, demonstrating the local community's commitment to environmental issues. This peaceful demonstration has successfully raised awareness about Lyron's unique biodiversity and environmental challenges. Local authorities have noticed the event in the message conveyed by the Foundation. The region of Bergia is among the worst hit regions in Swordland, where homelessness has skyrocketed since the economic recession. The number of homeless in the city of Deir is more likely to have increased by 25% in the last year. The rise was particularly stark among Bluedish people, where homelessness increased by 72% in just 6 years. It was reported that homelessness among ethnic minorities has reached the highest level in more than a decade. The Bluedish minority of the region now account for up to 47% of all homeless people there. The Swordfish Grid Corporation's field research team has announced new gas field discoveries in Narble. These discoveries could enhance the city's energy supply and play a significant role in the broader energy landscape of Swordland. Preliminary analysis of the yield and quality of these fields is currently underway. The corporation will soon realize a comprehensive report outlining extraction feasibility. Soon release. The economic implications of these findings, particularly regarding potential growth and job creation in the region, are noteworthy. Okay, nothing else from internal. GNA prepares Tourism Act. The Grand National Assembly in Holsword, is readying the Swordland Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act. This act aims to enhance the cultural and tourism appeal of several cities, including Borin, Ribery, Lacaven, Enrica, and Benfey, in the collective push to make Swordland a global tourist destination. A fire broke out in the academic administration building of the Holsword State University. The initial report from the chief of the police in Holsword indicates a near-to-complete destruction of employee records from 1890 until now, along with original copies of internationally recognized academic research destroyed. The extent of damage is worse than expected. Interesting. People's views on the need for democratic reform in the government's structure has changed over the past decade. Reformist propaganda from the leader of the People's Freedom and Justice Party, Franz Richter, have resulted in a massive increase in the demands for democratic reforms. It is estimated that currently 55% of the population supports the reformist idea. Current economic situation. Simon Hull, Gus Manga, and Lilius Graf were about to arrive at the White Room for our scheduled economic meeting. This was the room in the Maroon Palace where all important meetings were held. Two assistants arrived first, carrying a heavy projector. They stood with it by the door, waiting for the ministers to enter. From the hallway, I heard Lilius Graf's voice. She was using the patient, almost motherly tone she often took in heated arguments. Gus, do you really think that such an economically advanced area is more in need of investment than England? Lilius, my interior minister, strode in. She was clad in shades of brown and beige. The only spot of colour, a bright yellow Dasnerist cross on her necklace. Gus followed close behind her. Don't be an idiot, Lilius. What about the unemployment crisis the greater Holsword and Gelsland regions are going through? These areas are our economic heartland. Gus curled his hands into fists. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development's temper hadn't changed since his days in the Alfonso administration. But neither had his reputation for getting things done. His far-reaching network of connections was unlike any other. Simon Hull quickly stepped between the two ministers without looking at either of them. He cleared his throat. Good morning, Mr. President. What is this debate about? Just a disagreement in internal economic strategy, President Rain. Not sure if I would call it just a disagreement, Lilius. Lilius, can you explain the situation? Mr. Manga proposes that we should invest in already developed regions. Meanwhile, many cities like England, like Lenker or Avery, still don't have basic commodities delivered in time. Gus, what's your take on this? Sir, I have some very good construction companies willing to take government contracts in Greater Holsword and Gelsland. This would boost the rural economy. I think it would be wise to pick investments that will go through these regions. What are your thoughts, Simon? I have to say that I agree with both of them. England is in need of investment, and we can improve Greater Holsword and Gelsland. I want to avoid this topic now since we will talk about it in the future. I would rather first fully brief you on our current economic situation. Simon pulled a silk handkerchief out of his pocket and briefly wiped his glasses. My staff and I have comprehensively analysed every aspect of... He was interrupted by a groan from one of the assistants by the door, both of whom were now visibly struggling to hold up the heavy projector. Oh, you can put that there. He pointed below the painting of President Sol. The assistants placed the projector next to the table and installed a white screen on the wall. Leave now? I mean, thank you and please leave now. The assistants left the cabinet room. I was reminded that Simon had never quite had a way with people, but his facility with numbers had made him the most sought-after economic specialist in Swordland. Simon started looking for his slides. He always carried documentation around with him. Wait. Lilius leaned to the table and spoke. Simon, what happened to the new police station construction in Estord? While going through his briefcase, he paused for a moment to answer. It got stalled due to a government property boundary issue. I've been meaning to look at it. I can help take a look at that one. Estord needs all the security help it can get. Sure, more time for me to spend on analysis. His eyes glittered when he finally found the slides he was looking for. There have been some developments about the Swordfish Wren losing further value today. We have been trying to stabilize it with the central bank. The recession of 51 put enormous pressure on the economy, resulting in the collapse of the value of our currency. The entire situation was a significant cause for concern for our administration. Since economics is your forte, Mr. Rain, it is possible that you might already be aware of the data. I can still explain the current economic situation in better detail. What is our GDP and debt situation? Our current GDP is 310 billion Swordish Ren, and the national debt is 427 billion. Still hard to fathom that we lost nearly 150 billion in wealth. The past 3 years were tough. What is our unemployment and inflation rate? Unemployment has skyrocketed and is now at a staggering 16%, and the inflation is at a relative high of 10%. Unemployment is increasing crime and drug use. We need to get people off the streets. The inflation isn't helping our average citizen either. What is the status of the recession? The economy has been in recession of about -6% in the past year. The average GDP has dropped from 15,454 per capita to 10,359 from 1951 to now. This administration's success depends on our ability to stop the recession. The sooner we can reach GDP growth, the better. I have all the information needed. Let's move on to the economic strategy. Simon scattered the paper stacks in front of him in an orderly manner and took a final look at his notes before clearing his throat. As you can see, the situation is alarming, but not everything is negative. The extensive privatization program of Alfonso, the key foreign direct investments, left us a large budget surplus which we can use to stabilize the crisis. The primary subject we need to settle on is what general path we will take in our term. Solonomics-based nationalization happened in the 30s, and Alfonso's privatization began during the end of the 40s. What will our administration focus on? One of our main promises was to promote a free market economy to stop the recession. To be frank, I believe it is the only way out of the recession. I still do not support it. Why promote the private sector when we have qualified state-owned enterprises? Because the lack of competition has made them inefficient. What are the consequences of the free market? There are not many, but one could say that we are much more likely to be influenced by the world economy. It is important to think about this subject because the upswing of the world economy will reflect good on ours too. Yes, and when the global economy crashes, we go down with it. The structural problems of Solonomics were going to lead to a recession according to the predictions at the time anyway. Either way, even if we pick one of the doctrines, we retain the option to make economic choices on a case-by-case basis. That is, however, not recommended in my point of view. The last thing we need is a chaotic economy plan. Finally, something we can both agree on, Lilius. There was another important point which has a direct impact on our economy. Superpowers. We have done well not aligning ourselves with any one of them. Economically speaking, an isolationist policy overall could only work if we were to reap the benefits of both spheres and their rivalry. This is very dangerous to attempt, but still possible. We must be very cautious. There are schemes being devised about Swordland. We cannot give in to their wants now or in the future. Otherwise, our country will turn into a pawn. Swordland will not be controlled by any nations. Precisely my point. We will stand strong and show an example to the world. I hope we won't regret this. Lilius had a sip of water from her glass. When the time comes, I hope you will make the right decision for our own good. We should attract more foreign direct investment, Mr. President. We saved the country from a full-on depression in 1952 and 53 by signing lucrative trade deals with nations such as Rizia, Lesbia, and Quinol. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Minister Weesey will be in charge of informing you on those types of foreign policy decisions. We must first decide on our internal economic plan. Simon put forward a legal document outlining the possibilities with both economic doctrines listed. The cabinet members looked at me. What's on our long-term economic schedule? Picking a construction company, trade relations, tax reform, and privatization initiatives would be some of them. Sticking to a solid planned economic strategy will be the right call. The 5-year plans were fruitful in the past. Number 1, I think. Precisely the reason why we should stick to the old system. State planning and regulation both showed great success in the 30s. Only for a limited time, until even Tarquin Sol himself discovered the limits of the system. The slowdown began during his rule, remember. Let's move on to the conclusion. What are your final thoughts, Mr. President? Economy doesn't require as much guidance and could be as help us attract foreign capital. Critical institutions must remain in state control. We must be fully responsible in delivering services. We should look at opportunities like privatization to create financial resources. Ooh. Number 2. This is exactly my mentality. There are many possibilities that are waiting, like education or health privatization. It would be better to promote a market economy for these to have consistency in our plan. So, what will our general economic plan promote? I made a promise. I can't say that I agree with this. Now that there is clarity on which direction we are heading, I will work on a good plan accordingly. This concludes our meeting. At our next gathering, we will talk about the upcoming infrastructure investment plan. Now that the economic direction was taken, the ministers dispersed for lunch at the Maroon Palace. Okay, we've got a whole bunch more messages. 22 pieces of news. Meeting of the media strategy. So I'm assuming I can just, for instance, click on some news. Tourism, a beacon of hope for Swordland. Swordland Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act currently under deliberation. As the nation grapples with economic hardship, the bill's potential to boost tourism and cultural preservation efforts provide a much-needed silver lining. Fire strikes Wholesale State University Archive. Have relayed that the event occurred in the evening with multiple staff of the faculty being transported to the hospital with severe burns, but no deaths occurred. The rector Sander Navik immediately commented that the incident has damaged several academic works and employee records. We might have lost the world, or we might have lost Mercopa. We won't know until the day we can enter the facility to evaluate. The Committee for Reforms. Speaker Gloria Torrey said that a committee which includes all 3 political parties of the Assembly has been formed for the preparation of potential changes to the Constitution. The committee has been asked to submit a comprehensive report to find a solution for the current problematic state of affairs in the government institutions. Torrey said USP wants to appeal to the people of Swordland to help in maintaining stability and order in the state. The details of the committee regarding its actual topics or its members have not been clarified. Fair representation in the Assembly. The long-stalled campaign bill has once again taken centre state in the Grand National Assembly. The bill, first proposed during the Alfonso presidency, has been put on hold due to the 1953 election, but has now been resurrected under President Anton Reign. The proposed amendments ensure a more proportional allocation of public funds, more accurately reflecting the party's influence with the legislative body. Reign emphasized Swordland's dire situation. Thousands have attended the ceremony where President Reign has met with his supporters for the first time. In his inauguration, Reign spoke out about the current dire situation, bringing focus on the suffering of Swordish people. We are enduring economic hardship like never before, and today our nation is falling apart, said the new president, before he went on to start his first day in the Maroon Palace. I think they missed a few points there, but okay. So there's 5 of the news stories gone. Let's click Overview. Compulsory military service, Swordish general staff, and Gendarmerie under defense. Okay. Situations. Military interference in politics, outdated military equipment, internal security jurisdiction, large reservist pool, and experienced generals. That's for the military. law, and then we have situations here as well. Economy, remote market economy, Energy Protection Act at 20%. Situations, so many situations, welfare, order, and diplomacy. Reform Committee. A Reform Committee has been convened to engage in extensive discussions on the potential revisions and updates to the Constitution. Wow, so that's all of that. Connections. Oh, this is my cabinet. Okay. Factions, the Old Guard, the Reformists, the Oligarchs, the Grand National Assembly. We have 130. What have we got? Franz Richter, the PFGP. They are the People's Freedom and Justice Party. Oh no, now I'm in the Codex again. The NFP, National Front Party. USP Reformist Wing, spokesman of the Independents, deputy of the NFP, deputy of the PFJP. Okay, so there's my government assembly. Judiciary, the Old Guard holds 5 seats. The Centrists hold 3, and the Reformists hold 3. So if I attempt to push reform, I should obviously be able to get 3 seats quite easily. And then if I can get at least 2 of the Centrists and maybe 1 of the Old Guard, who only knows, I might be able to push it through. But of course, that's a much future problem for now, I think. And then we have all of these reports as well. It'd be nice if there was a kind of centralized report, something or other, somewhere. And then we've got all of these further reports coming off there. Okay. Regional map. And then, of course, wow, this is our regional map. This is actually our world map. Oh, no, sorry. This is regional. This is national. Got it. Our growth is down. Our government budget is 3. My personal wealth is 3. The Republic of Swordland. The Alliance of Nations is an international organization formed by the most of the countries on Earth focused on intergovernmental frameworks, mutual cooperation, and solving conflicts. Member of the OMEC. Organization for Mercopan Economic Development. It's an intergovernmental economic organization to stimulate economic progress and increase trade in Mercopa. Okay. Well, that is a brief look at what is on my journal. I'm still in turn 1, which is crazy. So that is a brief look at what is going on so far. That is an introduction. We went through the prologue. We made our character. And so we now have to lead our nation out of depression and into greatness, quite frankly. We'll continue to see how it goes. Obviously, it's a very text-heavy game. And hopefully there's going to be a way, because obviously I'm going to have to try and remember what I promised, what I said, what I did. And I hope that's done in an easy way. We'll find out as time goes on. And so, I suppose, yeah. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we have all these... I don't even know. I don't know what the roads mean. We've got red roads. We've got not so red roads. I get a river. That's easy. These are even more country roads, maybe. I'm not quite sure. But anyway. So yes, that is all we are going to have time for this opening episode. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. We'll definitely have a couple more before I make a decision, because we're still early doors, and I think we should give it a fair go. And yeah, we'll see what happens. The political scene has been set, and I need to now deliver on my promises whilst convincing everybody that I'm a great guy and they should keep voting for me. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you know, put your votes down below, vote for me, convince the world I'm a great guy. And until we do see you again, as per always, I hope that you will stay safe, happy, and healthy.